Good evening, West Orange, and welcome to our March 10th Council Conference Agenda meeting. Madam Clerk, would you read the opening statement, please?
This is to inform the general public that this meeting is being held in compliance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. A notice of this meeting was mailed to the Star-Ledger and the West Orange Chronicle on December 1st, 2014. A notice of this meeting was also posted on the bulletin board in the Municipal Building, West Orange, and filed in the office of the Municipal Clerk of the Township of West Orange on December 1st, 2014. Councilman Cirillo? Present. Councilman Kukoviac?
Present.
Councilwoman Spango?
Present.
Councilwoman McCartney? Present. Council President Garino.
Present. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you to my colleagues. As we start tonight's conference agenda meeting, the mayor has asked the Township Council to present two proclamations this evening. One recognizing National Nutrition Month 2015 and National Dietitians Nutrition Day for 2015. The mayor has asked me to make the presentations. He was unable to be here tonight, and he sends his best and his warm regards to the recipients tonight. Okay, good evening. I would like you all to come up here and please join me. It's so good to have you. It's so good to have you all here tonight. I will read both proclamations, and again, the Township of West Orange greatly appreciates your efforts for the better health and nutrition of our adults and children of the Township of West Orange, and it's much appreciated. And we don't take it for granted. We do appreciate it. The first proclamation I'll read tonight on behalf of the mayor is Registered Dietitian Nutrition Day 2015. Whereas registered dietitian nutritionists are the food and nutrition experts who can translate the science of nutrition into practical solutions for healthy living, and whereas registered dietitian nutritionists have degrees in nutrition, dietetics, public health, or a related field from well-respected accredited colleges and universities across the country, completed an internship and passed an examination. And whereas registered dietitian nutritionists use the nutrition expertise to help individuals make unique, positive lifestyle changes, and whereas registered dietitian nutritionists work throughout the community in hospitals, schools, public health, nursing homes, fitness centers, food management, food industry, universities, research, and private practice. And whereas registered dietitian nutritionists are advocates for advancing the nutritional status of Americans and people around the world. Now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Robert D. Parisi of the Township of West Orange, do hereby proclaim Wednesday, March 11, 2015, Registered Dietitian Nutritionist Day in West Orange, New Jersey. And I encourage all citizens to recognize the contributions of registered dietitian nutritionists and express appreciation for their commitments to promoting science-based nutrition in the hopes of achieving optimum health for both today and tomorrow. Respectfully submitted, Robert D. Parisi, Mayor of the Township of West Orange. And everyone's going to get a copy from the mayor's office. This one I'd like to present to the representative from Kessler Institute. Thank you very much. Thank you for what you do for us. And now the second one. It's a lot shorter than the first one. Okay, the second proclamation from the mayor is National Nutrition Month 2015 proclamation. Whereas food is a substance by which life is sustained, and whereas the type, quality, and amount of food that individuals consume each day plays a vital role in their overall health and physical fitness, and whereas there is a need for continuing nutrition education and a wide-scale effort to enhance healthy eating practices. Now, therefore, on behalf of Mayor Robert D. Parisi of the Township of West Orange, New Jersey, we do hereby proclaim the month of March National Nutrition Month in the Township of West Orange, New Jersey. And I encourage all citizens to join the campaign and become concerned about their nutrition and the nutrition of others in the hope of achieving optimum health for both today and tomorrow. Respectfully submitted, Robert D. Parisi, Mayor, the Township of West Orange. Thank you. And Ms. Velez, I'll give this one to you. And then if you'd like to say a few short words, everyone would like to speak to the public, you're more than welcome.
Yes.
Sure.
We'll do that. First of all, may we have a picture taken for the purpose of our Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. They would like us to send a picture of course, with you,
Sure.
presenting it to us.
I'd have my council members too like to
And
join us
all
up
of
here
them,
too.
Please, yes, please.
You could stand behind.
You want to- It's like in high school, they get wiser, so we Are we ready? Thank you. Ladies, thank you. Could I say a few short words, Josie? Thank you, ladies.
How are you? Peachy. Huh? Peachy. 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 Hi, Jack. Are you ready for Sunday?
I'm getting there.
You know what I want to ask you?
How are you?
I would have to guess that.
Absolutely, yeah, thank you so much for
No.
having us.
Anytime. Are you kidding? It's more than a pleasure. Thank you.
Catherine Sebastian.
Hey, Josie, can I say a few words? We're gonna-
Yes.
Focus with a fork.
Right.
Okay, Dr. Velez, you may
Yes,
please
good
make your
evening,
statement.
everybody. Registered Dietitians and Nutritionists Day and National Nutrition Month are part of the nutrition, education, and information campaign created annually in March by the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. This campaign focuses on the importance of making healthy food choices and developing sound eating and physical activity habits. We are delighted to see that the mayor, the council members are actually supporting this campaign. We started the wellness initiative as last March, and it was also proclaimed March 2014. For that reason, we were able to do a wellness initiative, which we gradually are expanding townwide. We have done quite a lot of program with partnership with ShopRite. In fact, we have Lachelle here who would like to give you some goodies and healthy snack bars. And we also partnered with Whole Foods and other organizations. We have done quite a few programs since March. Healthy Supermarket Makeover with ShopRite, Lunch and Learn program, Power Foods for the Brain with Whole Foods. We distributed nutrition education materials via a wellness booth at the Relay for Life race. We hosted booth at the ShopRite Zumbathon campaign. We actually participated and hosted booth of wellness and nutrition in the Happy Healthy Kids event at Gregory School, a Lunch and Learn program at Whole Foods, Healing Foods, Power of Life, and Saving Foods, and of course the Food and Drug Interaction program, which we did recently with the seniors at Degnan. Because of your support, we have done a lot of activities supporting wellness, and we hope that we can make our vision is to see West Orange emerge as one of the healthier towns in Essex County. Thank you very much.
Dr. Velez, thank you very much. I'd like you to introduce each one of the members.
I'll
that are
be
here
very
today.
proud to do that.
Please do. Thank you,
Okay,
Dr.
may I ask Lachelle Miller to come forward? She's actually the retail dietitian of ShopRite, who's been very active, and I'm sure the face is familiar. Right? And we have Vanessa. Come over, Vanessa.
Kessler.
And we have up in there, and Aileen. And we also have Catherine Sebastian. Join us, Catherine. Esther Gallardo and Presi Cataroja.
Right. Thank you. Yes. And you all smile for
Okay.
Councilwoman McCartney. She's taking it.
Okay.
Ladies,
Thank you very
I'd just
much.
like to say one last thing. On behalf of the Township Council of the Township of West Orange, we'd like to thank you for what you do, for your interest and your ideas for the community and the welfare of our residents. And we look forward to doing more things with you. And do realize, please keep the council and the administration involved in anything you need to do. And we're here because it's good to work together. But again, thank you. And I can't say any more. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you so much for all your support.
Okay. Next on our agenda, we have council liaison presentations. Councilwoman McCartney.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So now we know how to eat healthy. So.
Good night. Good seeing you. Yeah, thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. Councilwoman.
Thank you, Council President. We had a planning board meeting last Wednesday, and the planning board approved. We have been seeing quite a few cell tower. West Orange, with our topography, is just this ideal location, and we're seeing more and more antenna. They have not reached capacity, though we're keeping a close eye on that, on the cell towers that are already in existence. What I found fascinating at last week's meeting on these cell tower antenna is, this is on Marcella Avenue at Prospect and Mount Pleasant at that corner, is that the high frequency of the data can travel from Sparta to Cranford, which, because of our topography. The other item on our agenda was Essex County courtesy hearing for the South Mountain Complex, and the county presented a giraffe exhibit. Apparently there are 3 baby giraffes on their way to West Orange, and they are expanding yet one more exhibit for the giraffe, and expanding and renovating the existing cafe to have an overlook, I guess, so that we could be eye level with the giraffe. It was an interesting application.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
I want to just put out a word about Luna Stage, too, that they have excellent programming coming up. Their next show is Tar Beach, begins in April. I encourage everyone to go to lunastage.org and check out their roster of their upcoming events, particularly Tar Beach. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilman Cirillo.
Yes, thank you, Council President. At the Degnan House, we had a special meeting, a special committee that was set up to look at some windows. We're replacing all the windows at the senior buildings I mentioned at the last council meeting. We had 2 different vendors come in and present their supply, and we will be making a decision at the next meeting of the Degnan House board. So everyone's excited about this energy efficient windows that are going to be installed throughout the facility. Thank you, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Kukoviac.
Yes, thank you. The West Orange Open Space Commission yet again was unable to meet yesterday because we can't get enough people to have a quorum. It's become a real challenge with the weather and just with some long-term delinquencies, so we need to address that. The West Orange Historic Preservation Commission met last month to consider an application from Prism, the folks who are the designated redeveloper for the Edison project downtown, their request for a certificate of appropriateness from the commission. Under our ordinance, redevelopers and anyone who's making changes to historically significant buildings in town have to come before the commission to receive a certificate of appropriateness and give the commission an opportunity to review their plans. There were, at the meeting, it lasted a long time, about 3 hours last month. There were 6 areas that were identified as concerns. I'm just going to read them off. The proposed method of rehabilitating the exterior concrete. Number 2, the decision to make hundreds of penetrations in the exterior walls to accommodate an HVAC system. 3, the size, scale, material, and architectural treatment of the proposed east wall of the new parking garage. Number 4, the materials and design for the new townhouses to be constructed on the roof of the building. Number 5, the removal of the 7th floor windows. Number 6, a lack of a plan to preserve in place representative examples of original building fabric, including windows and exterior concrete. There will be a meeting tomorrow night of the commission to consider the conditions that they would place in the certificate of appropriateness that would require the redeveloper to potentially modify its plans for the project downtown. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilwoman Spango?
Thank you, Council President. There was a meeting last night at the Rena House, but I was out of town and unable to attend, and I put a call in to Dan Ritchie to brief me, but he did not return my call.
Thank you, Councilwoman. The Downtown Alliance is just moving along. Just put on your calendars, June 6th will be the Main Street Fair. We hope you'll all put on your calendar and come and enjoy a great time. There'll be great food. The exhibits at the Edison Laboratories will be a fantastic time for all, especially the young kids. And it's going to be bigger and better than last year and more successful than last year. So we're looking forward to some great input. I got noticed by Mr. Puglisi today, the representative of the county executive, so he asked me to make his announcement. Just to let people, the residents know that the annual Cherry Blossom Festival will be held on April 11th through the 22nd. To get more information, please visit www.essexcountynj.org for the website and to give you more information. And that's about all. Yes,
I have
Councilwoman.
some more. Sorry, a few more. Just a reminder, the 64th Annual St. Patrick's Day Parade is this Sunday. This nice warm weather. Hopefully the snow will be gone by then. Step-off is at 12:15, right here in front of Town Hall, down to Our Lady of Lourdes. So stay on the sunny side of the street and enjoy the parade. And
Our own is the Grand Marshal.
oh, of course. Well, quite a few, right?
Yes.
Jack Sayers is our Grand Marshal. We have Billy Kehoe, our Director of Recreation, Jimmy Williams, Supervisor at the Department of Public Works, Tom Malkinski, and Phyllis O'Keefe. Should be fun. The other event is next Thursday for Earth Hour. West Orange has celebrated Earth Hour. This is a global phenomenon. It's the true Earth Hour day is March 28th, Saturday evening from 8:30 to 9:30. Everyone around the world turns their lights off for 1 hour. It's interesting if you go to earthhour.org and look at what the Earth looks like with lights out. The past few years it has been very clear to have the panoramic view up at the Memorial Park near Highland Pavilion, the Essex County Park, 9/11 Memorial. That panoramic view also, it's except for the essential lighting, all lights go out. It's really a phenomena. Next Thursday at the Edison Museum right here in West Orange at 4:30, March 19th. It's open public. We invite you to attend our Earth Hour ceremony. We have guest speakers, and where better to host such an event at the Thomas Edison National Historic Park. So I invite everyone to attend between 4:30 and 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. And just to know, we'll be supporting our Mr. Sayers on St. Patrick's Day, so we'll be walking along with them. And we're very proud of you, Mr. Sayers. Thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. That ends our conference agenda meeting.
No more pub crawls along the way? Yeah.
Okay, just continue to, or we got 4 minutes,
can't,
okay.
gotta wait.
All right, gotta wait till 7. Good evening, West Orange, and welcome to our March 10th Township Council meeting. Madam Clerk, would you read the opening statement, please?
This is to inform the general public that this meeting is being held in compliance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975. A notice of this meeting was mailed to the Star-Ledger and the West Orange Chronicle on December 1st, 2014. A notice of this meeting was also posted on the bulletin board in the Municipal Building, West Orange, and filed in the office of the Municipal Clerk of the Township of West Orange on December 1st, 2014. Councilman Cirillo?
Present.
Councilman Kukoviac?
Present.
Councilwoman Spango?
Present.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Present.
Council President Garino.
Present.
Will everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The council is now in their public meeting.
Thank you, Madam Clerk, my colleagues. I just want to remind everybody, when you're speaking, please make sure you speak into the microphone, because sometimes you can't hear it when you're watching the video. And people and residents from the public, please use the microphone and speak into the microphone so the residents at home or watching the broadcast can clearly hear what you're asking and what's being said. Thank you. Madam Clerk? Right. I now open the floor to public comment. Anyone from the general public wishing to make a statement to the council, please come forward. Thank you. Please speak your name and address.
Good evening. I'm Mark Meyerowitz. I live at 19 Howell Drive. I noticed a little sign on the corner of Gertis Avenue and Pleasant Valley Way that says West Orange is a stigma-free town. And I don't know what that is. I've never heard of that. So maybe the council could enlighten me as to what a stigma-free town is and how West Orange became a stigma-free town. So that's my first question. And the sign is on the intersection of Pleasant Valley Way and Gertis Avenue. And the Star-Ledger had an article last week about PRISM, and they said that PRISM has not given new paperwork concerning their new arrangement with their new investor. So I think that it is very important that the council, if it hasn't already done so, get the appropriate paperwork from PRISM and review it very, very carefully, and not just be a rubber stamp to get this deal through without looking at it very closely. I know one thing is I'm not a professional negotiator, but you're in a very strong position now to ask for some changes in the contract. For instance, a couple of weeks after the project was approved a few years ago, PRISM right away dropped their jitney promise. So as a council and as the redevelopment authority, I would at minimum say we want that jitney back in writing before you get approval. You know, that would be one thing that really could enhance the project. And they should be kept to they should keep their word. They said they would provide a jitney, and they should provide a jitney. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meyerowitz. Is there anyone else who wishes to be heard? Wishes to make any presentation to the council? Seeing none, I close public comment. My colleagues, any comments? Councilwoman McCartney?
I do. Mark, thank you for your comments. That sign, I was trying to Google it to give you the sign about the stigma-free town. It was an initiative from Senator Cody. I don't have the details. If it comes up on my screen, I will certainly share it with you. But it came out of through Senator Cody. I do want to say something about that jitney promise, because during the planning board application, that certainly was heard. That was certainly recommended. It was never a condition, though it was a recommendation. And it wasn't necessarily a promise. What it was that if they find that that is an amenity that the residents require, then they would instate it. So it's not something that they dropped. It's something that they were doing as a feasible part of the project. So we'll certainly look into that, and they will determine if it is a needed amenity. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Councilwoman Spango?
I'm only going to reiterate what Councilwoman McCartney said, that all I know about the stigma-free also is that it was an initiative from Senator Cody. I don't know the details. And certainly, it is something to think about with the jitney service. I mean, we can certainly talk about that.
Thank you, Council President. I'm a big proponent of the jitney system as a tool to assist with marketing of real estate in the town. So I will make sure that I lobby and do my best to see that that becomes a reality.
That's what it is.
And on the stigma-free issue, that has to do with mental health.
There you go.
You know, there's a lot of stigma associated with mental health illness. And as my colleague stated, Senator Cody is a big advocate of mental health initiatives. And by declaring West Orange a stigma-free town, we actually promote the non-development of stigmas towards mental health illnesses in our municipality. So that's what that's about. Thank you for the comment.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Councilman. Thank you. I just say I am a big proponent of the jitney service. It's very important. People, I'm sorry. I apologize, Councilman Kukovic. Councilman Kukovic, would you like to make your statement?
Yes, no problem. I just was thinking you were saving the best to last.
Who, me?
I just wanted to follow up on Mr. Meyerowitz's mention of, want to make sure that the council reviews documentation related to the investment in the project by this company called Dune. And I have been trying unsuccessfully to get any sort of documentation on this transaction. The proposal, as I was told orally a few weeks ago in a meeting with some of the Dune representatives and PRISM and town representatives, was that Dune was going to contribute about $26 million in equity to obtain a 2/3 equity ownership in the first phase of the project. And it certainly raises a number of questions in my mind about how that may affect the project. But so far, the administration and I think Dune said that they were not going to provide any documentation other than the proposed, I don't know whether it's an ordinance or a resolution. So I find that deeply troubling on a project that's now been more or less being mired in no progress for 8 years, more than 8 years. And we're now told that there's an equity contribution. It would be interesting to find out why there needed to be an equity contribution and how that may affect the finances of the transaction. So I will continue to try to get documentation on that. According to the administration, I asked before the meeting that they're still in discussions, the two parties, PRISM and Dune. So hopefully at some point they will come to an agreement and we can actually, the council, which of course is the designated redevelopment agency for West Orange, will get a chance to see the documentation of that project and confirm for ourselves whether there's any changes in the transaction that we need to better understand.
Thank you, Councilman. And again, I apologize for stepping over you.
No problem, please.
To get back, I'm a very big proponent of the jitney. I believe jitney service enhances the ability of people to move around the township and also to live in an area and to get to the train station. It makes it more viable. It's something that, we should push for and discuss with the developer. And, things aren't off the table. So if you can use a jitney service to market your property and to enhance its, viability and attractiveness to renters, then that's what you do. But that's going to be up to the developer, but I'm sure it'll be something beneficial. The stigma thing, thank you to my council colleagues about explaining the stigma of mental health, something that's very important, something that people need to get those stigma ideas away about people with mental health and our residents. It's something that moves us forward to a more friendly society. Does anybody else have anything else to say? Administration? No? Okay. Madam Clerk, should we please review the consent agenda?
Approval of minutes of previous meeting, none. Report of township officers, none. Reading of petitions and communications and bids, none. Bills. Does anyone have any questions on the bills?
Consent.
Consent.
Resolutions, are any resolutions being pulled this evening?
Councilwoman McCartney?
I have more questions. We have quite a few things on the agenda, but they seem to all be resolutions for agreements to retain all of this, what's the word?
Just let me give you a little heads up on why. Usually we
Why
do
so
them in
many are
two
on?
separate meetings. Usually we do the RFQs first, then we do the contracts.
Thank you.
Legal had made a determination that it would be easier for us to do the RFQs and the contracts together at one meeting. That's why we're doing them all together. So it's something that you normally do in two meetings, but we put them all
Combine them all
together
in one. Well, I have-
in one.
Okay, I do have a question now. On G and H, this is resolution authorizing the agreement for Labor Council, and also Resolution H is a resolution authorizing agreement with Fox Rothschild for Labor Council. Can you just differentiate why are there two separate legal councils for Labor Council?
We actually use two separate councils. One we use for contract negotiations, and the other ones we use for grievances and things that
Okay.
go before the administrative law court. They're basically two different aspects of labor, so we use two
Different-
different councils.
Okay. Thank you. And I guess I'll pull Resolution C to explain.
T.
C, sorry.
C.
This was for the municipal prosecutor.
7715?
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Cirillo?
I would like to recuse myself from 3 resolutions, Council President.
Okay.
So I guess we would have to take separate votes.
Yes.
That would be Resolution E, Resolution S, and Resolution U.
E, F, or S?
S as in Sam, and Resolution U.
Anything else, Councilman?
That's it, Council President. Thank
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Councilman Kukoviac?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to pull resolution, agenda item A, 5915, having to do with the Skinner Consulting Services contract. Also, 78, agenda item D, 78, resolution authorizing agreement with Gibbons. And I just, when it gets time, I'd like to just ask a couple questions about some of the other proposed resolutions as well.
Would you like to ask them now, Councilman?
Sure, thank you. One of the questions, just a general question that I wanted to ask, because I'm not clear from the question and answers I got before the meeting, but it appears to me that when I asked about, on several of these issues, whether there were, on several of these proposals, whether there were existing contracts, I was told that there, at least I interpreted it as being that there aren't existing contracts, but that we've been spending combined in the, I think there were 12 contracts that I thought weren't being extended from previous contracts, that we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars with these vendors without having contracts in place. So I just wanted to make sure that that was my understanding, and I wanted to ask how that could possibly be.
I can't tell you about the history of it, but I can tell you, since I've been here, there were a number of contracts that were, or a number of professional service awards made through the RFQ process, and for whatever reason, historically, specific contracts for them were not drafted. You know, the terms and conditions were specified within their quotes within the RFQ, but there weren't contracts done. Frankly, I have been following up on that to try to get to a point where we could award all contracts once a year. Next year, we're going to hope to be able to do this instead of in March. Probably do this in December, so we do contracts for the following year at the December meeting, just as a matter of practice. It's just not something that was a practice here, and we're now making it practice.
So, Mr. Kaiser, are we in any potential legal problems by spending, I don't know, I haven't done the actual numbers, but it's hundreds of thousands of dollars without existing contracts with a lot of these vendors?
As a practical matter, there have been contracts of one kind or another, whether it's a purchase order or a written contract. I'm not aware of what specific people didn't have contracts before. Most of the people on this list, I thought, had contracts before. So certainly, Mr. Trenk and I had them last year. Other people have had them in past years, so I'm not sure which ones we're referring to.
Okay. I'm going to go through them. Resolution 7815 with Gibbons.
All right, Mr. Drakewitz has been our bond counsel for years, as far as I know, and I thought there was always a contract. If there isn't, I'm not aware of that. So,
Resolution 7915 with McManaman, Scotland. Resolution 80-15 with Ms. O'Connell. Resolution 81 with Skarinski. Resolution 8215 with Fox. Resolution 8515 with DeFeo. Resolution 88-15 with our Forester. Resolution 89-15 with our external auditor. I don't know, I don't recall that in his previous audits that he's flagged this, but Resolution 90-15 with Hendricks, Resolution 91-15 with Community Action, Resolution 92-15 with Omland, Resolution 93-15 with NW Financial. So those are the 12 that I think, if I understood Mr. Gross's responses, that we don't have existing contracts with them, but we've been spending, in some cases, over $100,000 a year with an individual vendor on this. So,
I think just to clarify, we haven't had specific agreements with them. That's not to say, obviously we've had purchase orders. We've gone through we went through a procurement process. So there have been steps, but one of the things, and we've talked about this at council before, was to get to a point where we had standard contracts that we had with all of our professionals. And that's what we're doing tonight, is we're standardizing our contracts. Instead of having different contracts with different terms and conditions, perhaps with everyone, or doing it based on a purchase order, which we're absolutely legitimately can do. We're taking the steps to actually have specific agreements that we've developed with council so that is standardized moving forward. So, and we expect from this point forward now that you'll see these. And one of the things, again, I wanted to get to is where we did it all at one meeting, so that you started off your year with knowing who your professionals are and moving forward from there.
yeah, one of my main concerns is that, of course, as everyone knows, the council's one of its main responsibilities to review all contracts that the township enters into. So I just, again, Mr. Kaiser, are we in any sort of legal issue if we're spending money without a contract for a lot of these vendors?
No.
Is there any reason why we haven't been having contracts?
Since I don't prepare the contracts, I mean, these names are familiar to me. Their bills go on the bill list. So as a practical matter, the purchase orders that generate the bill list are contracts. Since I don't prepare them, I don't know how often they haven't been in existence as a separate contract as opposed to a purchase order. I really, it's hard for me to answer that question. But I don't think we've committed any violation that's of concern. No.
Well, just so you know, it is a concern for me. If we're spending money, we should be having a contract, and the council has not had an opportunity to review them. So I'm glad to hear that we're.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we haven't violated any law. So, and you review all the bills.
Right. So, are you saying that reviewing the bill stands in for a legally required contract?
The simple answer to the question is, every year you approve RFQs, and all these vendors submit their RFQs. When you approve those RFQs are what they submit to the township that gives their hourly rate and what they're going to work for. Once you submit those RFQs, we have the right to hire those individuals to work for the township. And when we pay them with a purchase order, that's considered a contract. You guys don't review purchase orders. You review the bill list when that purchase order is paid. So once that purchase order is paid, you would see McManaman in Scotland got paid $15,000 in a purchase order that was cut on February 15, 2013. And you approve all those bills. What legal has recommended is, rather than continue doing that, which there is no problem with whatsoever, let's have contracts for each vendor, and that's what we're doing tonight. We're putting together contracts for every one of those vendors, so now you can get to approve those contracts if you choose to. That's the difference. There's
Right.
nothing illegal or wrong with what we've done.
I haven't said anything like
You
that.
said you weren't comfortable with it, and you said you're not comfortable with it. There's nothing wrong with it. It's a purchase order.
I'm certainly not comfortable with not being able to see contracts for vendors that we're spending lots of money with. It's not the same thing to look at the bills list or anything, or a PO that we have to, that we require, that we have to request from you guys. It's much easier if we have the contracts that are presented to us. And
That's what we're doing
appears
tonight.
I know, but it appears we haven't had this going on for at least these 12
Correct, and we
vendors
didn't
for a
have to
couple of
do
years.
that. We did not have to do that.
Because we've been looking at the RFQs.
That's it
Right,
it
the
could be
RFQ.
an administrative function, so we did not have to do that. We are doing it now.
Right.
I mean, frankly, I could have swear that we've had contracts with DeFeo, with Linson, and so forth in the past.
Probably
I
have.
I may be mistaken, but those names are familiar to me, and I seem to recall that we have written contracts with them as opposed to a purchase order. I don't have my hand on one, I haven't looked for them, but that's my recollection. That's why I'm puzzled by the question in the sense that, or the issue, potential issue raised by Mr. Gross, because my recollection is that for many of these people, we've had contracts. I can't put my hand on them, but I thought we had them.
Well, there may have been contracts in the past, but at some point in time, perhaps they weren't renewed or they weren't continued. I don't know the answer to that.
I mean, Ellen O'Connell, for example, we have, oh,
6 months ago.
I mean, she has always submitted an RFQ, and we have contracted her individually by resolution for special, for specific matters. I mean, that's been my experience. So we've hired her any number of times. She's an attorney, and she does a fine job, and I'm sure we've had contracts with her. I don't know that we've had an annual contract. We've had individual contracts for individual matters.
Because we've been going by,
Oh, go ahead.
excuse me,
I'm
I'm sorry,
Councilwoman.
because we've been going the route that Jack just explained with the purchase order for each
Right.
event.
If I may, Councilman, I'm saying, so Mr. Kaiser, Mr. Sayers, and Mr. Gross, so basically, the council has approved these RFQs, okay? And you've taken these RFQs and the documentation and the specifics in the RFQs, and you've put them into a contract, right? So basically, we have approved the contract. And then when you do approve the bills list, you're actually saying, okay, you approve the payment, which is basically an agreement to pay a vendor for their services rendered. So, okay.
Correct. What we did this year was we met with our council, and we decided to come up with a standard, all these contracts are standard contracts if you've looked at them. And all that's in there is a fee. Yeah, insurance requirements and fee structures. It's a standard contract that every time, as Councilman Kukoviac said, we're going to put it before the council, and you approve the contract, or you don't approve the contract, rather than continue going along with our RFQs. And as Mr. Kaiser said, I'm looking at some of the contracts that the councilman brought up, and there's no doubt in my mind that we've either had resolutions approving them,
Right.
or we've had contract. As a matter of fact, you guys just approved something for Ellen O'Connell about 3 months ago when she changed going from one law firm to another because we use her as our hearing officer. So I'm sure that you've approved some of these. I'm not sure exactly how many because I didn't get a chance to look at it, to be quite honest with you, but I can check that out.
Thank you, Mr. Sayers. Councilman Cirillo, you had a question? Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman.
I do want to continue to discuss this, certainly if
Councilman?
Cirillo wants to talk.
Yeah, it's, I've seen the different variations of these contracts that we have approved in the past. But the information that's in this draft It's the same information that's in the RFQ, so I don't see anything changing.
Right.
It's insurance requirements, scope of work, and
It's all the same
it's
material,
the same thing.
And the fees.
just a standard contract.
And then, in the past, it's been the purchase order that's a legal contract, a legal binding contract.
Correct.
So my question is, why are we moving to the standardized form of contract?
This was a recommendation, not actually a recommendation. We had a meeting with legal, our legal department, and they suggested that we put together a standard contract for all our vendors, which was circulated amongst the administrative staff. We agreed on what the language was going to be, and then legal has put these together now. In other words, now, what we're doing now is we're submitting the RFQs as well as the contracts for the vendors. Where before it
It
was
really
always...
doesn't say much, but yeah, I understand it standardizes the
It's a
process.
standard contract.
Yeah.
It's just like any standard contract that you would have.
Thank you.
If I could just...
Councilman?
I didn't quite understand your comment, Council President, and the response from the administration. I thought you said that it goes from an RFQ to a contract, so a contract exists. The issue that I see is that the contracts haven't existed on these for the past few years, at least since, I mean, the answers that made me
So,
interpret that there weren't existing contracts is, Mr. Gross said, honestly enough, that he said, there has not been a contract with this vendor since I've been here. So I just want to be clear, when you say RFQs, there are RFQs that exist, but there weren't contracts that existed in these, as far as I can tell, in these 12 cases.
No, and if I may respond to what I was asking, the administration was saying is, the council had already approved RFQs for these vendors. And if I'm not answering the question right, just correct, okay. And that since the council approved it, the administration then, with legal department's recommendation, that they took that same data and the same specs that are on those RFQs that were approved by the township council and rolled them into contracts. Now, the other question you had, sir, is that are we sure that we don't already have contracts with people? Mr. Gross said he needs to, and according to Mr. Kaiser, he believes we do have contracts. So I think basically to answer your question, the administration need to go back and review, do we have contracts, which can answer your question, or if not, basically the RFQs that we approved previously, they took the specs, rolled them into standardized contracts, and now they're putting everything the way it should be. It's on a contract, not an RFQ. Just going.
I just want to reiterate that
And correct me,
council has approved these vendors. The administration has used these vendors in concert with the authorizations provided by council to do so. So we've not been in violation of anything. What we decided to do was to formalize a standardized agreement to put before council so that we have a standardized process moving forward, because sometimes there were agreements and sometimes, in my opinion, at least from what I saw, there were where there weren't. We wanted to try to standardize it and to make it consistent that we handle, particularly with these professional services contracts.
So going forward,
going forward, we're here. We have them all now.
No, but going forward, we won't get RFQs. We're going to approve contracts.
That's correct.
Okay. Councilman, would you like to
Agreement.
continue?
Yeah, which is fine, and I do applaud the administration for doing what it's doing. I'm just concerned because, as you know, one of our main jobs as the council is to review all contracts, and of course, I guess it didn't violate a law or our ordinance if there weren't any contracts to review. But I'm just saying we are not able to provide that sort of additional review if there aren't any contracts.
Well, that's what we're doing.
That's what we're
The
doing,
only
but
thing
these
I
are
would
the
add is-
agreements right here.
I mean, I've been sitting here for several years in this seat, and I have personally prepared some resolutions. I can almost recite the language verbatim. I mean, the council authorizing the mayor and the clerk to attest to sign contracts for various and sundry services. And there's been many of them over the course of those years. I don't remember, for some of these, I have a fairly specific recollection that there's got to be a contract, because those resolutions generally have a contract attached, and the resolutions refer to the attached contract. So it's hard for me to believe that we haven't had contracts with these people over the course of years. Now, sometimes, there may be times when they've, in effect, been holdovers. A contract, may have been entered into that wasn't extended on a timely basis. I don't know, but to me, it's all legal. It's not a problem that we have some liability because that wasn't done, and that's my recollection. So.
Well, here's what I went on. I went on what Mr. Gross told me in response to my questions, and I also did a search on the town website, which is supposed to have all of our resolutions and ordinances, and I didn't find them. So that's all I can say. And when the council gets a chance to look at these resolutions and these, we can come up with either ideas, or we can challenge them, or we can correct mistakes. There are a couple of mistakes, I think they're significant, in the contracts that we're looking at now. For example, the contract for Mr. Trink, our town attorney, says instead that he's the assistant town attorney. So we wouldn't know that unless we looked at the contract. But I think that's something that needs to be corrected. Omland, as a corporate entity, is another one of the contracts. It no longer exists. It's been subsumed into a company that acquired them, I believe, last year.
Bowman.
So, according to Mr. Gross, we're going to have to change the name on the contract.
That has been corrected.
So, those are examples, I think, of why the Faulkner Act and our ordinances want the council to be reviewing these contracts. So I'm glad to hear from Mr. Kaiser that we don't incur any financial or legal liability from not having these contracts in place. I'm glad that they are in place for a number of reasons, but because it gives the council a chance to review them and help with this. One of the other things that I think is good about reviewing the contracts is we're proposing to hire, this is resolution 87-15, to hire a company called H2M Associates to provide municipal planning services. And when I asked about what they're doing, because we've actually got two firms on this list who are proposed to provide municipal planning services, it turns out that there may be some news here, at least for me on the council, that there may be some other redevelopment activity coming up this year that H2M might be helping with. So it also helps to inform the council and also the people that there's news coming out of it. And that's actually one of the questions I wanted to ask. What's going on with redevelopment? If we're hiring somebody to do redevelopment separate from Edison and I guess separate from the Harvard Press project down in the valley.
My recollection with H2M has always been on remediation, not about redevelopment. It's always been environmental remediation, most recently with Valley Road.
Okay, so if I understand correctly, H2M has been a vendor for us before? Is
Yeah.
that what you're saying?
Yes.
And is that
Years.
H2M has been providing services through the town or through one of the boards?
No, through the town.
Okay.
So these are all agreements. I really am, and I know I don't want to belabor this discussion, but the agreements, I guess we're using the word interchangeable between an agreement and a contract, everything is spelled out in every one of these resolutions. So if you do have a question about it, then now would be the time to change that language. I'm missing the point of what you're saying, because they are giving us these agreements. This is what we're being authorized to approve this. And everything between the insurance, between the fees, between the people that will be working with us, everything seems to be spelled out in these contracts or agreements. I'm saying it synonymously.
Okay, so let me just go back over and some of the things that I mentioned, because I would like to hear from the administration if there's more work that H2M is doing, there's more redevelopment work, and unless I'm mistaken, that's...
There's no specific work at this point in time. However, we have received some inquiries from developers that they may want to talk about some redevelopment in different areas. So we want to have a engineering firm or planning firm assigned for us, should that occur, that we then could let the developers pay for that work and see whether or not it was in the interest of the township. At this point in time, there's no specific project. There's just been some discussions about the possibilities, so we thought it was a good idea to appoint someone, a firm, so that we should we have the need, that the firm is there available to us.
Okay, thank you. If we could go to Resolution 9415, which is the resolution authorizing the township attorney and the deputy town attorney. if you look at the first page of the contract that clearly identifies that it's to hire our town attorney, Richard Trank, if you look down at the last whereas at the bottom of the page, it says, whereas the township provides for payment of the assistant township attorney at the rate of $42,500 per year. Now, that's in Mr. Trank's contract. He's not the assistant township attorney, so I think that should be changed. But I think it is correct that he's getting $42,500.
That's correct, and I don't have, I'm trying to download from the website, and I'm not able to for some reason, a copy of that contract, but my recollection had been that, here we go. Okay, let me just, yeah, no, it should be, that particular reference should be township attorney, not assistant township attorney.
It says right here, scope of services, township attorney.
I don't know if we need to, do we need to vote on an amendment to that, to change that?
It's basically a typographical error. I don't think you have to vote on it.
There's another contract that's here in which there's a direct contradiction between what the firm's proposed RFQ and what the contract says.
Drakewitz contract, I believe.
I believe so, yeah. I'm just looking for the contract number here. I'm sorry.
It's 7815, I think.
Thank you. I'm sorry, there's so many, it's hard for me to keep up.
It's right,
And that was revised.
right. It's right here in the
Yeah,
packet.
we got the revised
7815.
copy.
I noticed the same thing. I thought that Mr. Gross had corrected that, but I could be wrong. I haven't been in my office today, so.
My understanding from Mr. Duffy today that they had made the corrections to that, so.
Just, I mean, in general, law firms can't bill for their overhead expenses. But if there are specific expenses for postage, for sending something by express mail or whatever, they can bill for them, and they usually do as disbursements, and we reimburse them. And so the paragraph that was referred to in the attachment from the Gibbons firm, to me, represented standard procedure. I couldn't account myself for the discrepancy between what was in the body of the contract and that attachment, but that's the way I would have read it, and hopefully somebody did correct that, or if they didn't, they will. So.
We got it revised.
Okay.
We got it,
We got it.
That's what it was revised, okay.
No, I don't know what it is.
This is what we originally received.
No, this was in our
Right.
packet.
In our
when we
mail
sat down.
now.
It's revised.
right, in today's packet. Okay.
But it basically, the attachment that's referenced in the resolution says that even though the contract says no out-of-pocket costs, it very clearly says the firm will include in its billing statement its out-of-pocket costs incurred with connection with the matter, including expenses of telephone, document reproduction, postage, air freight, et cetera, et cetera. So,
Right.
so that has been changed. Okay.
You can include it, it doesn't mean we're gonna pay. Right?
You can review.
Hey,
I've been
reference
known to refuse such requests.
Thanks, John.
Councilman?
Right, and that may be true, but it may also be opening the door for litigation that we don't need if they say
But
it's-
it has been resolved. That's the key.
Right.
The key to this is it has been resolved.
Right. And again, I don't want to belabor the point, but when the council can look at it, we have another 5 sets of eyes to help get these things done correctly. So thank you.
That's what I'm missing. Okay.
Okay.
I'm just trying to see if I have any other questions here.
Joe, the other one that you mentioned about Omlin, that was changed, so there is a revision in here. Mhm.
Okay. Oh, good.
Okay.
So just to give me pardon, if somebody else wants to talk, I'll just go through and just check and see if I have any more questions.
Councilman Cirilli, have anything to say?
No, I don't.
Okay. Councilwoman Spango.
Thank you, Councilman.
I have
You're welcome.
questions, but Councilwoman McCartney already pulled 7715.
Okay, thank you. I just like to say, basically, we're looking at RFQs. You're doing your due diligence to look at the RFQ, and you're taking it and you're putting it into the contract. So basically, yes, we have reviewed what's going into the contract, and basically going forward now, the administration has has changed, let's say corrected, has changed, so now we'll be voting on contracts going forward, so we'll see contracts. That's fine. So to me, I feel we have been doing our job. We have been, if you've been reading the RFQs, you're doing your due diligence, so basically, we've been doing what we're supposed to do. And to Councilman Crowley's point, I can understand, you want to see the contracts, now going forward, we'll be presented with contracts.
On Resolution 7915 for McManaman, Scotland, the contract actually decreases the two rates that we pay to them. They're normally the redevelopment council for the township, and they're reducing their rates, and I just wanted to find out why that is. I mean,
But I guess you'd have to ask them. These are the rates that they put forth to us with the RFQs. I don't know the answer to that. It is not, while the lion's share of the work they do is for redevelopment, they do also do work for us that we pay through the township's budget. Again, it's maybe 11% of their total bill over the past 3 or 4 years. But, that's the rates that they quoted for whatever reasons, and we're certainly not going to ask them to raise them back.
So it wasn't your and Mr. Sayers hard-nosed negotiating?
These are not negotiations, these are quotes.
Maybe they were just so scared.
Can't take credit for that.
These are
Councilman.
quotes.
I'd like to, but I can't. Sorry.
I just wanted to ask another question about Resolution 9615. That's the resolution that references the community block development grants from last year. And I wasn't sure whether we had ever publicized the total awards and where they went to. I couldn't remember and couldn't find in my notes where we had, but the awards, let's see, $276,000 for some road construction, I think on Cherry
and
Place
some other,
yeah. And then there was also an award to the Bethany Center for Champions.
Right. And Main Street
Okay.
Counseling.
I wanted to ask about Resolution 9815. This is for our insurance consultant. I had just asked what had changed in this contract from the previous one, and you had answered the amount of the contract is increased by $4,000. So I thought that was rather significant, since I think we usually pay them $20,000. So I'm just trying to find out why the big jump, why the 20% jump.
We went back and looked, and there hasn't been an increase in many, many, many years, and that's what they submitted for.
They submitted for a $4,000 increase, so we agreed to that.
Okay. So it's been a
They actually
20
submitted, they asked for it last year, and we didn't.
Yeah, they did, you're right. He asked for it last year, and we
We
didn't give it to
we
him this year. He
pretty much
submitted
ignored it.
and we agreed to
So.
the increase. They do a pretty good job with us for our work on our workers' comp stuff.
And that's all my questions.
Okay, thank you, Councilman. So, Madam Clerk?
We're going to, for for the ones that Councilman Cirillo recused himself from, we need to take a separate vote.
Right, which are,
Well, actually, I can ask for consent without Councilman Cirillo, is that
Yes.
correct? All right. Okay, so that would be 79-15. Is there consent on that?
consent,
And 93-15
Consent.
consent,
and 95-15.
consent.
Okay. And with the exception of resolutions A, C, and D, do we have a motion to approve?
A, C, and D?
Yes,
A, C, and
those are
D.
the ones that were actually pulled.
Councilman, do you still want to pull D?
I was going to say, I didn't realize that it had been changed, so I don't need to
Okay.
pull.
Okay, so
Pull
A
D.
and C.
A and C.
Two A's.
There's two, yeah.
There's two
There are
ways.
two A's on it.
One was carried over, yeah.
Yeah, which,
Well, the contract
look at
for
that.
Skinner was tabled
Yeah,
and
that's-
brought over.
Right. So the Skinner one is the one that you wanted pulled,
That's correct,
correct?
yes.
Okay. All right, so with the exception of Resolution 59-15 and 77-15, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
So move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The consent agenda is implemented. Okay, Councilman Krokoviac, you pulled 59-15.
Yes, thank you. I need to get back to the original. I was hoping to get a red line copy, but
Oh, the contract.
I'm sorry, it's been, is it up on the website? The new contract is up on the website. I was hoping to get a copy of the old, so that I could compare the language as we're discussing this.
Only the new is up there.
Yes.
I only keep the new one up.
Joe, I have a copy of the old, if you want to.
I do as well.
You
The
wanna
only
rep-
change to it, as I made clear in my answer to your question earlier, was the third bullet point was completely replaced, so it seemed silly to do a red line version. That paragraph was removed and replaced with a different one.
She's got an old version.
Did you want, oh,
Could I
sure.
just borrow that from
Sure.
the floor?
Councilman?
Thank you. So this is the contract for our grant writer, and she's been our grant writer for a long time under basically the same contract year after year. And it looked like in 2014, she did not meet the requirements of one of the specifics in the letter of agreement that said that she had to pull at least an amount of new grants from particular sources that were not from particular sources during the prior 5 years in order to meet her $28,000 compensation for 2014. And I raised the issue at the last council meeting, and there was discussion that we wanted to change the language there. And so let me just get to my notes here, I'm sorry. So the language is changed in the 2015 contract, but it still doesn't address, I think, the issue in the 2014 contract, which basically says if she doesn't meet the minimum of new grants, she works without getting compensated until she does obtain the minimum amount. The new language, as Mr. Kaiser pointed out, completely changes that bullet point. And I'm just not sure that this fixes the problem. I think there's two issues. There's issues with the 2015 contract language, and then there's issues with sort of the follow-through on the 2014 contract. She had 3 grants last year. All 3 of them appear to me to fit into sort of the excluded category of non-new grants. And if that's the case, then how since she's already gotten her compensation for 2014, because there's a lag time between making the applications and getting the news about whether you get them or not, how we can, the issue for me is how can we, number one, address 2014 and then also 2015 and try to fit it with our experience. Because it appears to me that she didn't meet the requirements of last year in 2014, but now that 2014 is over, she can't actually work on any more 2014 grants because it's now 2015. So,
Sure.
So I don't understand. As I said in my note, I think it's a good idea to provide incentives, but the incentives have to work and have to be be something that can be enforced, how do we enforce non-compliance or whatever you want to say? She didn't get enough contracts in 2014 if she's already gotten the money for that. So I know Mr. Kaiser said that he made these changes to try to clarify it, but I don't think it clarifies what the issue is for 2014, except that Mr. Kaiser says that she did meet the requirements for 2014.
I did say that, but just to be clear, I contacted Mr. Gross and confirmed with him that she had met them because I didn't do the analysis myself. I didn't have her report at the time, but my understanding is she did meet the requirements. And what I tried to make clear is the changes I made to the language didn't change anything in terms of, it changed the terminology in the 2015 contract only to make clear the intent of the parties that has been there since well before 2014. Because Ms. Skinner has been our grant writer for a number of years. So I didn't have her report. Didn't analyze her grants. I did ask Mr. Gross, and he confirmed that she had met those requirements. So I take it that she did.
Okay, because my reading of her report indicates that all three of the grants that she got last year were from the same, what I would consider to be particular sources. Within a 5-year period.
That's the issue.
Mm-hmm.
You're actually answering your own question. The issue is the source. That was never the intent, that if it came from the same source, you weren't going to get credited for it. And the example as I gave last meeting was, when we get our Junior Police Academy grant, we get it every year. It's the same grant for the same program, and it comes in every year. One year it might be $500 less, one year it might be $500 more. That's a recurring grant. That's a grant that we get every year. Now, in Ms. Skinner's report that she submitted, I don't have it in front of me, but she did get a second grant from a source that we got last year, but it was a totally different grant. It wasn't the same grant that we got the prior year. And that's the difference, and that's why we need to clarify that language. For instance, when you get a SAFER grant, okay, we apply for those grants every year for a number of things. One year you might get it for equipment, it might be for $50,000. The next year you may get it for a fire truck, it may be $800,000. The following year you may get it for building upgrades, and it could be $350,000. In that case scenario, those grants are coming from the same source, but we don't think that those three grants, we don't believe, our intent, I shouldn't say we don't believe, our intent was that just because those three grants came from the same source, they shouldn't be considered different in every year. Because obviously if you're writing a $50,000 grant for equipment, it's obviously different than you're writing an $800,000 grant for a fire truck or like a $1.7 million grant for the 9 firefighters that we hired. Came from the same source, but the grant amounts were different year by year. So that's where the rub came in with why we need to change that language.
Right.
We don't want that language to say the same source. What basically it is if it's a grant like the Junior Police Academy grant, which is a recurring grant, we get it every year. Every year all we got to do is file paperwork, we get the grant. That doesn't get counted toward what she does. What does get counted is grants, new grants that she's applying for or that the township is applying for that we get, no matter what the source is. That's what the difference is.
Yeah, and I think also, and just to piggyback on what Mr. Sayer said, and this is one of the issues with contracts, the word source to different people has different meanings. For instance, to me, when you say source, a grant source, I don't think it's necessarily the entity that's granting it. Let's say Open Space Fund, County Open Space Fund. That's the entity that's granting it. But the source of a grant would be the specific grant itself. So, the particular grant that we get time and time again has a particular source. It's the grant that specific titled grant, as opposed to the source, whether it be the federal government or the county government or the county open space fund. If it's a different project, that's a different grant. And I in my interpretation, now I wasn't here when the contract was originally written many years ago. I suspect, and based on what my understanding of the intention was, when they were writing source, they were talking about a source grant, not a source entity. And, now can people interpret it two different ways? You're interpreting an entity, that source means entity. If it's been the understanding of the administration all these years that that's not what it meant, that it meant the source grant itself, well, then that's why the clarification is required. My opinion, based on everything that I've been told and what I've read and my interpretation, she has definitely qualified based on 2014.
Okay. Councilwoman?
Yes, thank you.
If
I may.
Councilwoman?
Sure, if I just wanted to
I'm
add
not
to
finished,
this.
but certainly if you...
Well, I just wanted to add to this because I thought it was made clear, very clear at our last meeting, that we used the the police academy, that it was an $18,000 recurring grant. That would be an example of excluding from this contract. We're talking about exceeding a $28,000 contract, and in the second paragraph of her report, it says during the above-mentioned period, West Orange was awarded $392,000, and an additional $1,623,000 is pending. So even if we don't get that award, I still believe that she's entitled to working on that grant.
We had this conversation.
I know we
last
have.
meeting.
So, and if we've already been awarded $392,000, that far exceeds her salary. So again, I don't understand the line of questioning, unless you're just questioning the actual. I understand the recurring grants should not be included, but another example, to John's point, is the New Jersey Transportation. We apply every year. They're for all different things. New Jersey Transportation may be the source, but they are for all different competitive grants. There are no guarantees. It's the same source.
But it doesn't have to do with guarantees or pending. What the contract clearly says is what grants have you obtained, and here's what it says: new grants shall mean monies and/or aid not previously received by the township from particular sources during the prior 5 years. That's all I'm talking about. That's the gist of this. There were 3 contracts, 3 awards from last year. There was a juvenile justice program that you just mentioned is recurring, so that's not counted. The New Jersey Department of Transportation Municipal Aid Program, we do tend to get those every year. It's the exact same source every year from the Department of Transportation. And the third one was the Open Space Local Aid Grant that we spent the $150,000 with the pool, with the kiddie pool. And I recall, and I don't think I said this at the last meeting, last council meeting, but I remember when that was brought up at the Open Space Commission meeting, and it was not presented as some competitive type thing that we've got to have a great project on. It was, we're told, find us a project for the $150,000 and you'll fund it.
There was still no guarantee we were going to get it.
Well, none of these are
That's
are
right,
not
and so she
guaranteed.
exceeded
But
the
it doesn't say-
expectations.
But Councilwoman, it doesn't say that in the contract. It just says the one sentence about the sources.
Right, and it says
And
particular sources, which is, I will agree, somewhat sloppy language. It does not say the same sources. So the intent has always been, as it's now expressed in the 2015 proposed contract language. I didn't change any intent, and it's the intent of the parties to the contract that controls. And that's been both Ms. Skinner's intent, and it's been the intent of the township for as long as I can remember. So that's, I agree that the language in last year's contract was not ideal, and that's why I changed it, but I don't, and I can understand how you could arguably interpret particular sources to mean same sources, but it doesn't say same sources, and we've never interpreted it that way.
Right, it says particular sources. So I do want to try to, to get the mechanics down, at least in an understanding of this. What happens if, in the future, the vendor does not meet the revised requirements?
Then
So, for example, she goes through 2015 and doesn't get $28,000 from the qualifying.
She keeps working for free until she meets that benchmark. And if she never reaches that benchmark, presumably she works for free for forever. It's hard to imagine that happening. She never gets paid for that extra work. If you renew the contract and you go back to January 1st, it's going to have to be prorated because she can't. Let's assume it takes her 6 months to get up to that $28,000 limit. If you renewed the contract retroactively, so it took effect January 1st, she would only get paid for $14,000 for that year. If you didn't do it retroactively and you started the contract on July 1st, then you could do a year contract for $28,000 or whatever you happen to negotiate. It'd be a new contract. So I don't see that as being a problem either.
Okay, so let me just see if I can walk through this. If in 2015 she doesn't meet the requirements, so she continues to work, but she works in a calendar year 2016 to try to get enough grants to qualify for 2015, for which she's already gotten money.
Right.
Okay, so then you get into a situation that maybe you work for 6 months in 2016 and you're not paid, but you eventually get the grant that qualifies you for 2015.
Right.
Because that same grant also can be used for 2016, because now you're behind the 8 ball.
No,
Because now
no.
you've lost half a year.
Right, no, it doesn't count.
Has to be approved in that calendar year.
She would have to continue to apply for grants, follow the terms of this agreement, and she wouldn't get a new contract unless and until she qualified for the 2014 or 2015, in your example, amount.
And for every month that she worked, she would not receive compensation.
Right, absolutely.
Until that.
That's the agreement.
I mean, if you looked at her report, she already has grants in for 2015. That are pending, that have already been
Yeah.
written and sent in, and they're already pending. And that's how she works.
Right, we're working on one right now for it's due April 1st.
Yeah. So if whatever she gets in the calendar year, that's what we count.
So whatever she applies for in the calendar year, and may get later on, but as long as she applies for it,
Yeah, if it's applied for in 2014, it's a 2014 grant.
even if the notice for it comes in the first month or two of
Correct. There's a
2015.
2014 grant that's still pending right now with, I think it's a SAFER grant for over $900,000 for equipment that hasn't been,
Right.
they haven't made decisions on yet.
I'm sorry. That's all I had to say.
Madam Clerk?
Okay. Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 59-15?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Cirillo?
Yes.
Councilman Krokoviac?
No.
Councilwoman Spangler?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Cruz?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney for 7.
I pulled, thank you. Resolution C is the resolution authorizing the amendment for the agreement with our municipal prosecutor. This is really just for the record, that my understanding is that there was supposed to be a longer training period with the acting prosecutor, and that really didn't occur, and that's why we're making these fee adjustments for the prosecutor who is still manning the job.
So can you repeat that? It's why?
Well, when they were presented, when the municipal prosecutor was presented here in January, there was supposed to be a training period with the acting prosecutor. My understanding is that that didn't happen, or it didn't go as long as the agreement was. So this amendment is that this municipal prosecutor is doing the job, solely doing the job. And that's why we're making this fee adjustment. That's
Correct.
my understanding, is that?
Correct.
What was the former prosecutor getting? That's the same rate he was getting?
Yes. He was supposed to stay on and work with her during February.
I
He did.
remember
He
that.
chose not to do that. And the reason it's going to 750 moving forward is there are a couple of, I believe, cases that he has that his name is on that he has to complete during those couple of months. So she's technically working on her own right now.
So he's going to be working on those cases?
He's going to be working on 2 of those cases. You see
The
where
2 that he
it
took on.
changes from 1,000 to 750?
Right.
It's going to 750 because she's still going to be doing the day-to-day operations, but he has 2 cases, I believe it's 2 or 3 cases, that he has to complete because he was the attorney of record.
But I interpret this that it's going to be, you're bringing it up to 1,000 a week for February?
February is the
And
month
then
that
March
he
and
did-
April.
Initially, the contract provided that there was a work-in period during which Mr. Candido would continue to be the prosecutor and train her or whatever. Apparently, he's not doing that for whatever reason. And I haven't never talked to him. I can't address, I happen to know him well, but I can't address the issue. I haven't talked to him. But, okay. But since he's left, then she's basically working full-time without any assistance, except for the few cases that he's the attorney of record of, which he has to continue on. He's been trying cases that are in progress. He has to continue until they're done.
And his salary was $1,000 per week, so she's just assuming his salary.
This will actually save money. Had it gone the way originally, you would have had both of them for a longer period of
Right.
time
Right.
at basically, a
Nice.
$1,500 to $750 a week.
Councilman
Now,
Cooper.
it's
That's
going to
one
be
way to
$1,000 a
look
week
at it.
plus whatever additional that
He
the old
needs for
prosecutor.
his
Yeah,
case.
so this really actually will be less money for the township.
Councilman Krokoviac?
My understanding was, just so those of you who are following at home, we've hired a new prosecutor who did not have any criminal background. And so the thought was, on the administration's part, to link her up with the prior prosecutor, so that he could help bring her up to speed on the court and how to handle the position and that sort of thing. So I thought that was actually a good job, particularly when I heard how long it would last. But now we've heard that she does not have that assistance. So while I applaud just about any time we can save money, it doesn't seem to me, if he left and is not helping her for the next few months, whether that's actually addressing the issue, which is that we all felt comfortable, a lot more comfortable about this, because Mr. Candido was going to be there to help her. Now he's not there. We're going to give her the higher amounts of money, even though we didn't think in December that she should be doing this by herself as she got up to speed. And I asked about this, and I was just told that Mr. Candido wasn't available, so that she's handled more responsibilities. But that doesn't tell me that, she's the greatest criminal mind of our time. And I'm not denigrating it all, because I know Ms. Whittle, and she's an excellent attorney, and I don't have any concerns about her long term. But short term, I thought this was a good way to fix it, and I'm just not sure that this is the way that we should be addressing it. Just give her more money and throw her out there by herself.
What would you think we should do? I mean, we can't bring someone else in and hire them, because they don't know, she's doing a good job, and she picked up the slack in February, and we had a conversation with her, and she's willing to stay on and do the job. So we felt that she was entitled to get the money, since she was doing, the lion's share of the work.
Yeah. The thing that comes to my mind is also the chief judge at our municipal court just stepped down after 20 some odd years. I mean, he might be somebody who would be able to help. He knows that court better than anybody. He helped create and formulate it. And was there any consideration of maybe going out and asking him if he wanted to help a little bit?
No, because we talked with her, and she feels comfortable that she'll be able to handle it. So we're gonna stick with her and see how it goes.
Okay.
Councilwoman.
But Councilman, that would be just what Mr. Gross said. That would incur more costs, because we'd have to pay him or anybody that was willing to do it.
Yes, I'm just going back to the whole rationale we did this. The whole rationale we did this was not because she wasn't available full-time to be doing the job. We were doing it because we felt like, with her minimal criminal background, that she needed somebody to help get her up to speed. And what we're seeing now is that there wasn't much time to get her up to speed, and whereas we thought it was going to take several months, she had help for 1 month, and now we're just going to move on. See the point? Like I said, I'm fine with saving money, but I don't think in this case it actually serves the purpose that we were looking at, which was to get her up to speed with Mr. Candido.
Well,
I think we're blessed that we have a quick study in Ms. Whittle. I think that that's been very helpful. And when we had the chief judge here during our budget hearings, she also praised the work. We recognize the workload that they have, and
Well, that
That
was
was okay.
that was my response. I mean, I'm sure the administration, or we would have heard from the chief judge if she was not living up to her job or not capable with not having enough criminal background. And like Councilwoman said, the chief judge commended her, so.
And I know she's a quick study.
Right, she is. No, I know Brenda, Ms. Whittle a long time, and she's very focused, and, you know, she does the research. If I may ask a question, Mr. Sayers, if she had to, and she needed some expertise or questioning, can she go to our own legal department? Can she, you know, approach Mr. Kaiser?
I mean, I've offered to help if she needs. I'm a very experienced prosecutor in both the county and municipality, I'm happy to help. You know, she's got to ask. I'm not going to just walk over there, but I mean, I'm happy to help. So.
No, and Mr. Kaiser, I know you're back. I know what I was saying, but I was asking, is it okay for her to? And I'm sure, of course, you would always be there to help her. I mean,
I can't go into that court to defend anybody, but I can go in and assist the prosecutor. So.
Okay, and that wouldn't cost us
Good
any
to
money.
know.
Because Mr. Kaiser's worked.
Cost me time. That's all.
Thank you. Councilman, anything else?
No.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Is there a motion to adopt Resolution 77-15?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Cirillo? Councilman Krokoviac?
No.
Councilwoman Spango?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Garino.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now,
Resolutions.
ordinances
Ordinances,
on second
I'm
and
sorry.
final reading. Ordinance 2444-15, an ordinance amending Chapter 25, Sections 51.16 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of West Orange. This is a revision to the zoning ordinance. Is there a motion to approve on second, introduce on second and final reading?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Cirillo?
Yes.
Councilman Krokoviac?
Yes.
Councilwoman Spango?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Garino.
Yes. Would any member of the public like to inquire or ask questions on ordinance 2445-15?
Sorry.
Seeing none, I close public comment on ordinance 2445-15. Councilwoman McCartney?
2444.
I'm sorry, 2445-15, sorry.
2444-15.
44, I'm sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Council President, if you recall, this was an ordinance that was introduced at our last meeting but tabled. This is a recommendation from the Planning Board creating a checklist recommending to applicants to consider green design standards. Part of it was questioned about the township's role in following these same standards, and there have been recommendations from our acting planner to make some adjustments in the language. I don't think it's significantly different, materially different. Ken, I don't know the terminology. In section 3B, the part pertaining to the township, this would be considered for new construction and major expansions, new building and major expansions. And we would also agree to change the minimum LEED silver rating to be the LEED certified standing, which would be the lowest level.
Councilman Cirillo, any comment?
No comment.
Councilman Krokoviac?
Yeah, I had actually reached out to Mr. Greigel, our acting planner, and also to Mr. Heller, who's the chairman of the planning board. And I probably should have included you on this, and I'm sorry I didn't. And just raising some of the issues that I raised at the last council meeting. And it looks like either you had the same conversation as I did, Councilwoman, or separately. But those were the two things that I noticed here that he thought should be changed. Because my whole concern was how much cost this is going to add to the township on the checklist side for applicants to the Planning and Zoning Board. If I understand correctly, they have the option of going that way and just filling out a questionnaire. And if they say, look, we can't afford it right now, then they don't suffer any penalty. That didn't come out right. Not suffer a penalty, but incur additional costs that may be better off in the very long term, but in the short term they couldn't handle. On the township side, we're actually requiring the township to adopt these standards and originally for all of the buildings in town, but now it's going to go,
Well, it wasn't, it was never meant for all of the buildings. It was always meant for new buildings, but we can add that language in here to say for major expansions or any new buildings.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Greigel said expansions of township property that would, if they were in the private sector, would have to come before.
For the planning board anyway.
Planning board anyway, yes.
And even according, excuse me, but even according to Tom Tracy, these are standards. These are standards that, I'm being redundant, they are standards that are standard already with the applicants. Tom has also weighed in on this, what he also recommends and what is a requirement by the state with new construction. So it's already a standard.
So I'm fine if they think that this is a better way to go. It certainly sounds like to me that it will reduce the township's initial costs to qualify for this stuff. I just am concerned because there hasn't been a cost-benefit analysis to look at how much additional cost this might mean for us, not only for adopting these standards, but also for adopting the accounting processes.
That typically comes with the work that's being proposed because you do the energy audit first, and then you get that cost analysis to even find out if it is feasible in the first place. And typically you're looking for that long-term savings on the initial investment is paid back through the long-term savings. But my question really is a legal question, Ken. Changing the LEED silver rating to just the certified level, is that materially different?
Say that again. Do you have the language in front of you? 'Cause I don't have it.
Yes, I think, in my scribble. New township building, new buildings, and this is, I'm sorry, this is 3B. It would be new buildings or major expansions to be designed to LEED certified status.
You're looking on page 2B for all township-funded building projects?
Yes.
As
Number 2,
township-funded building projects shall meet a minimum LEED silver rating.
right, instead of silver, it would be just LEED certified rating?
Yeah, somebody can move to amend. That's not a serious.
Okay, good. That's
material
what I
change.
wanted to hear.
Council.
And I guess on number 1 also, though, Ken, it says township shall incorporate life cycle, total cost accounting in the design, construction, and maintenance of township-owned building, township-owned and financed building on new buildings and major expansions.
Again, I don't think there's a serious
I didn't
problem
either.
with amending that language. And this is basically going to be a checklist type of thing that
The
people are going to go through.
checklist is included, yes.
Right, okay.
Mhm.
That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the township has to do this. This is not the checklist for private companies coming before the planning board. This is what the town, at least the way I'm reading it, it says, for all township-funded building projects as of the effective date of this ordinance, including the design and construction of new buildings and major renovations and additions to township-funded projects, shall complete a sustainability checklist incorporating a LEED rating system. The township shall incorporate life cycle and total cost accounting in the design. Township-funded building projects shall meet a minimum LEED silver rating. So that sounds like to me it's telling us that the township has to do this going forward.
Mhm.
That's my concern.
And that's the recommendation. That's the
if-
recommendation that's being made.
Okay. So this isn't the checklist that's higher up in the ordinance. This is what the town is now required to do. And
Somebody explain to me the change then, because, I mean, what's the significance of the change?
it reduces the
Right, the
standard,
ratings.
the LEED standard you have to meet, and it also reduces the township building projects that would have to comply with this.
Reduces or makes, or is it a more severe standard? I mean, is it?
No, it's reducing. It's going from a LEED silver rating to just LEED certified.
So it's a lesser
Can
standard.
you explain the difference between the two?
No. Mick, can you explain the difference between? You'd have to please come to the microphone. Okay, Mick attended our our environmental commission meeting, and I shared the ordinance with him, and he's a lead certified. Mick, we need your name and address.
My name is Mick Erickson. I live on 16 Maple Avenue, West Orange, and I'm a lead accredited. And the certification difference is you can apply for as high as platinum, okay? And then you're going to have different features and whatnot that you're going to have to put in to achieve a different standard. Mm-hmm. So like what Joe's referring to is, a higher silver standard, which is the second lowest, is going to cost more than a certification, as Susan's saying.
The builder's going to have a greater burden in terms of...
They may have. It all depends on how creative they are and how they look at the project and how much time they put into the design. Something like Joe's saying, you don't want to get probably the town in a situation where we're forced into paying for something that doesn't have a cost-benefit analysis to it, which might, you might want to word it something more like, the goal is to achieve the highest LEED certification that we can. That would be the goal. Mm-hmm. But do we need to mandate it without a cost-benefit analysis, no matter what level you're trying to get certified at, if that makes sense?
Has this topic been discussed by the board? By the planning board?
By the planning board, yes.
Okay, and so have they requested the change in the language, or?
Yes.
Did they do it? Have we got a report that says that they're?
Just through an email.
Pardon?
Just through an email when I shared the questions.
Okay. Well, it sounds like it might be a material change. It sounds like if you're going to have to meet a higher standard, then perhaps we need to start over.
Well, we're saying no, it's not going to meet different. We're reducing the standard. We're going from silver to certified. Mick is talking about the different tiers. We are lowering the standard. And I understand the cost benefit, but I still think that I'm sure that we would always do an energy audit to find out if it is.
It would make sense. There's always a payback period in anything you do.
Right.
So it would only make sense to do a cost-benefit analysis on anything you do rather than just saying, hey, we're going to demand.
This is a change from one standard, whether it's up or down, this is a change from one standard to another standard, which will have economic outcome either way.
Not always, but possibly, yeah.
To be safe, I would just start over. It avoids an issue.
Ken, this is not time.
If some application is granted or denied going forward, and there's a legal issue about it, they can. The party can always go to how the initial ordinance was affected. So.
This is not time sensitive. This is not time sensitive. So again, we can table it again, work on it to just get the language exactly what we need.
That's what I would recommend. If in fact there's a change in the standard, then it's probably best to just start over.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Before
Kennedy.
there's consideration for
Councilman.
tabling, if it's okay, Councilman, I have a question, Council President. When we talk about township-funded building projects, how do we define that? What's the definition of that? Just so that we know what we're considering here.
Town-funded projects.
Well, the way I read it, I don't know whether you're looking for Councilwoman to answer, because she's on the planning board, but the way I read it, it requires all building projects for the town. If we wanted to do a renovation of here, or the police building, or whatever, it's required to do that.
Do you have, would you like to make a comment, sir?
That's where we.
In regards to LEED, like say the facade at the
That's
library.
the example I was going to use.
You're not gonna apply for that. That doesn't qualify. I think what you have in your thing is major renovations and new construction only. So it doesn't apply to homes. It would only apply to major reconstruction and new construction.
New buildings.
Well, that goes to the second piece of Mr. Greigel's response, I think, because it says in the ordinance, township-funded building projects shall meet a minimum LEED silver rating.
Right.
And then higher up, just above that, and Mr. Kaiser, just to try to clarify this for you, I know you're doing this on the fly, there are basically two sections to this ordinance. One creates a checklist for applicants.
Right.
The second one appears to me to mandate that the township adopt these standards. And so that's what we're really talking about. And Mr. Greigel, in his email, if I understood it correctly, suggested 2 changes. And that's the email that we went back and forth. He said, it may make sense to tweak some of the language regarding the township's obligations. In particular, we would suggest requiring new township buildings to be designed to LEED certified standards, the lowest level instead of silver. So here he's talking about new township buildings. The ordinance could also be amended to clarify that these requirements would only apply to new buildings or major expansions, i.e. would require major site plan approval if a private property. They would not apply to renovations or replacement of existing building systems, although I understand the township is already trying to incorporate energy efficient features in such projects. So to me, he's suggesting 2 significant changes, because the original ordinance, the ordinance as it stands now, says all township funded building projects shall meet the minimum LEED.
Okay, I mean, I wish I had the benefit of Mr. Greigel's email. I didn't, but I think the safe thing to do is, especially if there's no time constraints here, just start over and re-advertise and with the changes. And
so there are 2 issues. If we're talking about amending it now, I just wanted to throw 2 things out. As Mr. Erickson said, cost-benefit analysis is a very good idea, and I had raised that issue. So maybe we work into the language that it also requires the town to go into a cost-benefit analysis. Although it wouldn't help us because we're mandated to do this anyway, it would at least give us an idea, maybe before the town actually proposes one of these projects. If they do the cost-benefit analysis, then they say this is going to cost us too much.
Right, but then there you have the checklist where you can put on the checklist, you're not doing it because of the cost-benefit analysis.
Right, but I'm not talking about the checklist.
But it goes hand in hand. So if you're going to do a cost-benefit analysis and you find out the results are saying that it's not feasible, then that's your check on the checklist that it's not feasible.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that for the checklist for private developers or homeowners.
It applies to the township as well.
But it doesn't say that. It does say a sustainability checklist incorporating the LEED rating system. It does mention that as the checklist for the township. But I'm talking about the section underneath which says, mandates us to incorporate life cycle and total cost accounting in the design, construction, and maintenance of all township-owned and financed buildings. Funded projects shall meet a minimum LEED silver rating, and the third point is about the pilot program. But the way I'm reading that language, it requires us. It's not a checklist. We don't like it, we throw it out. We're required under this language here, for every project that we do.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. The checklist is different than the mandate for the town of the LEED application.
That's the point I'm making.
What we're talking about here is an interpretation. What was the intention versus what does it actually say?
Well, why can't the
And it's
town
clear that there's enough ambiguity in the language that again,
rather
it
than
really probably should be
mandated
voted
for the
down
town,
and
why can't the
reintroduced.
town apply, okay, for the highest LEED, which is platinum, on every renovation that they do that falls under a LEED category? It's going to have to be big enough. It's not going to be the facade. But why can't, instead of mandating, why can't they just apply?
I don't think I'm suggesting debating the merits one way or the other, what it should say. I think what we're finding here is that the way it's written is being interpreted different ways, and therefore it needs to be clarified to say whatever the intention is to be said.
Well,
so it probably has to go back to the planning board.
What I want to remind everybody is this is a change to Chapter 25. That means it has to go before the planning board for its analysis, its report. So if we're going to make changes, you know,
Has to go back.
I'm going to make a motion to table.
Vote it down.
Vote it
Okay,
down. Okay.
You need to start over.
we'll start over.
And
Thank you for your input. It was very helpful.
Thanks, Mick.
Madam Clerk?
Okay, is there a motion to adopt on second and final reading? You can vote no. So
No.
just- No, you have to make a motion, and I'll take the vote, and then.
Right.
No.
Okay.
And then it'll.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Councilman Cirillo?
No.
Councilman Krokoviac?
No.
Councilwoman Spango said no, sir.
Okay. Councilwoman McCartney?
No.
And Council President Garino?
No.
Okay, the motion has failed.
Could I also just suggest as part of the reconsideration that perhaps Mr. Gross be involved with the discussion about adopting life cycle and total cost accounting? I don't know whether that's going to require us to just whip out a spreadsheet or whether we've got to buy some software or adopt a solution or something, but I don't know what that requires, but if we have to have a separate accounting system, it's got to be, you know, a cost to us. So I just, I couldn't find out anything about it.
It's a green PCA.
Depending on the size of the project, it's something you would either include in, for professional services. I mean, there's going to be a cost. I mean, to perform that, it'll be whomever's going to be doing the soft cost design, et cetera, would also be engaged to provide that. So.
Okay, again, I don't know anything about this, I'm just.
No, but I mean, something simple, certainly, anyone sitting in my seat can do that, but I think, you know, it probably doesn't make sense. It probably makes sense for whoever's doing the design, because they actually know, you know, what are the savings. You know, they're going to project that out. They're the ones to really to perform that.
Thank you.
But Council President.
Yes, sir.
On that same note, I think it is important for Mr. Gross to be involved, because we can find out what kind of financial impact may come about to the municipality. And I was unclear as to what's considered a township finance initiative. Is the redevelopment project by extension considered a township finance initiative? I don't know. Well, we have to be clear on what's, you know, there is some bonding going on that is part of that.
We'll have to see what the final language is.
Right.
So we have to be clear on what we're voting on. So
Thank you, Councilman. Thank you. I concur also. I also concur. Madam Clerk?
Ordinances on first reading. 2445-15, an ordinance amending an ordinance creating a reclassification and salary schedule of certain Township of West Orange employees, setting forth their titles, classifications, and salary ranges, and adopting a salary guide and establishing the employee status of a Township employee under the guidelines of the New Jersey Department of Personnel. This is for Assistant Supervisor / Public Works, Certified Pool Operator, Assistant Supervising Mechanic, Record Support Tech 1, Senior Public Works Repairer / Parking Meter Collector. Is there a motion to approve on first reading? Is there a second? Councilman Cirillo?
Yes.
Councilman Krokoviac?
Yes.
Councilwoman Spango?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Garino.
Yes.
Ordinance 2446-15, an ordinance creating Chapter 2, Section 61 of the Revised General Ordinances of the Township of West Orange entitled Pedestrian Safety Advisory Board. Is there a motion to introduce on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Councilman Cirillo?
Yes.
Councilman Krokoviac?
Yes.
Councilwoman Spango?
Yes.
Councilwoman McCartney?
Yes.
Council President Garino.
Yes. You want to say
You're
something?
gonna say
I was going to say
Go right
something. If I may, my colleagues and members of the West Orange community, I'm very happy and very pleased to have this ordinance introduced on its first reading and hopefully its successful second and final reading. The intent of this ordinance is to create a pedestrian advisory board so the members of our community can come together, people with expertise can come together and address the safety issues that are posed against our students walking to school, to our senior citizens walking to church or to temple, and just to members of the general community, to make West Orange and its thoroughfares a safer and a more enjoyable environment. It's something I'm very proud of, something that I've worked with Councilwoman McCartney on the Pleasant Valley Way Traffic and Safety Commission, and it's something that I hope everyone, once it is approved, I hope people will show interest and people would like to become part of this. The membership, and when you read it, includes people from various parts of the community, from the major civic organizations to the school districts and the schools. So I hope it's something that you'll find that's another benefit to improving the quality of life in West Orange. Councilwoman McCartney?
I should have spoke first.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I know this is on first reading, but so that we're not trapped in what we just happened on second reading on the other ordinance, two things. This ordinance, as Council President just laid out, is a pedestrian safety advisory board, but listed are representatives from the Downtown West Orange Alliance, representative from the Pleasant Valley Civic Association, Town Council Liaison, Thomas Edison National Historic Park, Board of Ed rep, and Township Engineer and a Township Planner or his representative. Number 6 and 7 on this list is a representative from St. Cloud Avenue neighborhood and a representative from Gregory Avenue. I would like to see a change there because we have 2 out of this 2 listed, 2 schools out of 11. That I want the schools represented, but I want to see that
I just
in a
wrote down
different way.
Before you spoke, I don't understand why Pleasantdale, Redwood.
Right. Well, they all have issues. That's just it. Pleasantdale just put their kiss and go lane. Redwood has that wide turn on Woodland Avenue that we have talked about for many years. So somehow get school representation, but not lay it out specifically that it's just from 2 schools
I agree.
in that area. So I don't know how to do that, and I don't know what that language is. But
Well, when I had suggested this to legal, you know, I said that basically the Pleasant Valley Civic Association covers all of Pleasantdale. That covers the largest
true.
part.
Okay.
And then the Downtown Alliance basically covers the Main Street, Lower Greg, and all of that. And the only reason why I brought up the point about St. Cloud Avenue and Gregory is that they're not included in any of these organizations. They're not covered under the Downtown Alliance. They're not covered under the Pleasant Valley Way Civic Association. I just want to make sure that each part of town, it doesn't mean it's the St. Cloud School and the Gregory School. I'm talking about the Gregory neighborhood, the whole Gregory neighborhood, and the whole St. Cloud neighborhood. I just want to get each part of this township covered, and this is the way I thought it could be. This is the way I recommended it. If my colleagues feel there's maybe an addition or a change, I'm open to that. I want to make this as good a document and ordinance as possible, not just to throw it together. So I look for your input. Yes, yes, Councilman Covier.
If I could, well, as long as we're talking about it, it seems to indicate on the draft that I saw that the council, the township council representative is going to be appointed by the mayor. And I'm not comfortable with that. I think it may be a separate provision that says the council elects who they want to represent them, as opposed to the mayor deciding something like that for a separate branch of our government. So,
Councilman Cirillo?
Council President, I do want to commend you for this initiative. I think it's worthwhile, and it's an absolutely great idea. As it relates to any amendments, potential amendments, I would like to ask legal through you. How do we go about making those recommendations?
Sure. Madam Clerk, how would I go about getting this change? I mean, since we've adopted it at first reading, how do we go and make changes? And I know I have to go through legal, have legal rewrite it.
Absolutely correct.
Okay,
So I would make them to you, Council?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want, like I said, I want your
Because I'm
input.
thinking Valley Way, I'm thinking High Street. I mean,
well, it
these are
leaves out Mount
concerns.
Pleasant. Liberty is all the way out there at the end.
Yeah, what about Liberty School?
Yeah, a lot of things. Sidewalks. And St. Cloud, we just last month passed an ordinance on parking for St. Cloud. Gregory is always difficult because it's plunk right there in the middle of a residential area. So yes, but I want every school represented, and I don't know how to do that. Possibly through the PTAs, because there is a council of PTAs.
We can add the council of
And,
PTAs.
they are very vocal, and they know all the concerns of their schools. There may be someone on that board.
So-
Somehow to get representation from all the schools.
Absolutely. So what would be, Councilman Cirillo, what would be one of your changes or
Well, I
additions?
would like to see, and it's true, yeah, we do have to take into consideration the schools and the children coming out, in and out of the schools, but also just in general, neighborhood safety. I've heard from residents on Valley Way that
Right.
there's concerns there, High Street, Park Avenues. There's other areas of town that see a lot of traffic, and there's issues behind the restaurant patio. I mean, those hills, you have to
You're
be
right.
very careful. So we want to hear those
My
concerns
street, my
as
street is a
well.
cut-through street to
That's right.
cut through,
That's right.
avoid the light.
So we
and
could
there's
say to
traffic
cover
issue.
all schools, we can add the council of PTAs, right? That would be a
Right.
good
Well,
point.
that would be, but also I would think the traffic department, I think that they've set in on our Pleasant Valley Civic Association meetings. They need to hear from us
See, my whole intent, and I agree with Councilwoman, I'm saying is, but the whole, this advisory board is report back to the council and the mayor of things that we need to address, and then, of course, that would be addressed to traffic. But if you believe that we should include the traffic department, I didn't want to make it too big
Right.
of a thing, so.
But traffic has been so responsive.
That's fine. No, they've been very responsible, and that's been, the police department's been held. Councilman Krokoviac, you said about the council appointment. We could change it to be that the council could have a consensus appointment to this? So the council would have the consensus appointment?
Council President, you can make any changes you want. I mean, look, this is a purely advisory committee, much like the Open Space Committee.
Yes, sir.
I'm only going to, and it's not required that you formalize a committee like this. You can, if you wish, make it basically a permanent part of the township organization. You can include, but you don't have to. I mean, a body like this can meet on a voluntary basis whenever it feels the need and make recommendations to the council like anybody else can come in and make a recommendation. I can come in and make a recommendation to the council.
Absolutely, I understand that, but I want to put something formal together to make people have a dedicated effort, just like we have with the Pleasant Valley Way. You know, it's volunteers, but I just wanted something with substance. I wanted something formalized that it would give people the sense that it's their duty to do this.
So I can make
in putting it together, I suppose, since there's been a group of people who have been meeting fairly diligently, apparently, their suggestions can be taken into account. The council members can speak for their own and make recommendations. And once you've got the whole thing put together as everybody thinks they want it, you can reintroduce this. So.
Yes, Council.
I was going to make an analogy because when the Environmental Commission, when we formed the ordinance for that, depending on what it was that we were concentrating on, that's the department head that kind of fill in the blanks. When we were doing water conservation, we needed the health department. When we were doing energy conservation, we needed the Department of Public Works and the engineering department to help us with the figures that we needed for that. Solid waste contracts, anything like that. The ordinance read that there would be a representative, a department head, depending on what we're working on. So instead of maybe specific schools, it would be an advisory commission put together, and then the representative from that area would then be included. I'm just trying to figure out how to do it, because the language in the Environmental Commission is that that person is on board when you're working on that topic.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
No, I understand. So basically, I can go back to legal and have this redrafted and then reintroduced at the next council meeting? No.
No, you would go back and have them put in.
The changes.
Correct. And then you would vote.
On the second final reading can be voted as with the changes. Okay.
I have to see it.
Okay. I will reach out to my colleagues too, just to go through it again. Just to reach out to all my colleagues to formalize any changes and everything else. But thank you, and I thank you for your input and support on this.
If you do reach out, make sure that everyone
it's on email, right? It's
answers individually, not as a group.
Right. Just as instructed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you to my colleagues. That's it.
You have ABC.
ABC.
We're going
Right.
to adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion now to adjourn as the West Orange Township Council and reopen as the ABC Board.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we are adjourned.
I just want to wish everybody a great evening. Thank you for spending time with us tonight. And as I always say, please come out to our town council meetings and be part of the governmental process. And we'd love to hear from you. You can email us. You can find our emails at the West Orange Township website. And please reach out to us. That's what we're here for. Thank you, and have a great evening.